Who's going to be the next killer to come into the fog? And if they are licensed, who's it gonna be? Let's talk about it. Kings and queens, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having a fantastic day and doing well. Let's go ahead and talk about if the next chapter is licensed, what potential characters could we see coming into the game? If you guys have your own ideas or suggestions, leave them down in the comment section below, as I'd love to read them. And with that being said, let's get started on what's most likely to come in for the next chapter if it's licensed. According to my last theory, I basically summarized that if we are going to see a licensed chapter, I don't think that it's going to be a monumental chapter. Reason being is because the anniversary is right around the corner, and you would preferably want to have a massive anniversary chapter as they've done in the past. So with that being said, in my eyes, that rules off some of the top candidates such as Jason, Pennywise. Anything essentially that is over the top and would break the internet won't be in this list, but that does give us a nice outlook of what else could come. Here is the top 5 characters that I think could make their way into the fog. The hot new trending topic on the street, or older remastered version I should say, is Dead Space. This has been something that people have been asking for in Dead by Daylight for a very long time as well. And, you know, I never really paid too much attention to Dead Space in DBD, but it actually does make quite a lot of sense. Considering that Dead Space just released as well, it is hot. Everything right now for Dead Space is flowing, and if something like this was in the works, Dead by Daylight surely would have known the Dead Space release date and when everything was coming out, and if they closely worked with the developers, they could easily bring in some of those characters into the game. Now, Dead Space, as you guys know, is super duper iconic in its own horror sci-fi genre, which actually fits the glove quite well for Dead by Daylight. We don't necessarily have too much sci-fi things going on in the game currently, nothing really too far in advance, but it would make a lot of sense that if they were to make a futuristic type of chapter, Dead Space would be the first place they go if they're trying to license it. We know that EA also basically owns Dead Space. They are the publishers of this game, so Dead by Daylight would have to contact them. I'm not sure what that relationship is like, but I'm sure that if the money is right, why wouldn't it happen? And if that was the case, we would see Isaac coming in as a survivor, and there are tons and tons and tons of things that they could bring in as the killer. Pretty much everything in Dead Space is pretty scary, so anything that they bring in would fit the glove quite well. You have the super slashers that are just absolutely terrifying. You have the dividers, the drag tentacles that could just be little traps around the map. You have the hunters themselves, which makes sense. You even have the twitchers. The leapers would be something that is super cool and unique that DBD can have. But I honestly think that the lurkers would be super well fitting for this. They are just really weird and scary, and I think it would fit Dead by Daylight quite well. Now, the only ties that we really could draw with this is that in a previous survey, Dead by Daylight actually asked what video games would we like to see coming into the future, and one of those options was actually Dead Space. So it makes sense, it's on their radar, and it's something that we definitely could see in the future, and I think it would make a really nice fit. Next on the list is Alien, and we have seen everything about this. We pretty much know exactly what this is going to look like in Dead by Daylight, thanks to the awesome gameplay concepts that we've seen in the past with the Alien itself. And I think this one's a little bit of a no-brainer. If Dead by Daylight were to ever bring in an Alien type of killer, they wouldn't just make their own, they would go for the Alien license. It fits perfectly as this big monstrous beast coming after the survivor. Obviously, it's very similar to Demogorgon with the style of gameplay that it could bring in, where it slashes with its hands, and you know, it could even use its tail if it needs to use as its power. Just a rampaging monster coming to get you, you know. We seen that in the fan-made concept, it kind of had like this Oni / hillbilly kind of dash where it like just runs around and it starts knocking people at furious speeds, and something like that would just be absolutely amazing coming into the game. We've seen tons of people talk about this in the past, tons of people make fake leaks and things like that, so the community really wants this to happen, and I think it would be an absolutely perfect fit for Dead by Daylight. Now, this also fits the criteria that I personally had in mind, where it wouldn't be too over the top to bring in as a anniversary chapter, but it also works well for an anniversary chapter. So you never know. If this was in their back glove, in their back pocket, they could bring it in now. They could bring it in as an anniversary. Nonetheless, it is a huge chapter, and I think it could be pretty good for the next one in DBD. The next person on the list, or the next title, I guess, is Dying Light, another video game joining the list. And if you recall our video about a week ago, we said that Dead by Daylight and Dying Light kind of had an interaction. Dying Light replied to Dead by Daylight saying hello in reference to their shrine, with one of the perks being Dying Light. In the video, we basically said that Dying Light has been a perk in the game since 2016. So they definitely knew that this was there. You don't really see too much interactions between companies happening, so that gives me suspicion that they're either working on something, they're planning on working something, or for all that we know, it could just be some friendly banter. It's quite interesting, these tweets, and then they replied a little bit to some other tweets, and I think that Bad Daylight even replied to them as well. The Dying Light also, like maybe 2 days before that post, showcased someone's awesome like creation in their game, and it was a bunch of people around a campfire. I think all the dots are kind of connecting if this were to happen, and in retrospect, it would be quite obvious, but hindsight's 2020. For now, it is still up in speculation. As we mentioned in the video, there are fantastic things that they could bring in from Dying Light into DBD. Obviously, Kyle Crane being the main character would be fantastic. And then you could bring in a bunch of different variety of monsters to come in, but my vote will go to the volatile because they are absolutely ferocious. So that is basically what I think could be a likely chapter. Will this come out? I don't know, but it makes a lot of sense. Moving on forward, this one is a little bit more vague, but I think this one is also a little bit of a no-brainer for Dead by Daylight, and that is bringing in more anime-related things. This can go to the extent of, you know, Death Note or any major anime that's out there. Obviously, they did Attack on Titan, which is a very, very popular anime. I don't know much about anime, so please don't jump on me in the comments. But considering how well the anime stuff did last time with Attack on Titan directly, it wasn't necessarily fully like anime and DBD as some people hate. I feel like more people would hate on the Trickster rather than the actual like Attack on Titan stuff that we did receive for multitude of reasons. But if they did something similar to that and made it into an actual chapter, I think it would be absolutely huge. I think people would go nuts for it. And it's not necessarily a chapter that, again, will, you know, cause a huge storm and it's like completing the Hall of Fame of killers, but it would make a lot of sense just because of how much sales they had in the past. And this could be any type of concept. So all they would realistically need to do is speak to one of these animes, Demon Slayer, My Hero Academia, a bunch of different iconic, you know, stuff. Bring in one of the characters as a survivor, whoever's the main antagonist, especially if they're more of a monster-ish type of character, bring them in as the killer, and then load it with a bunch of skins for all of the other characters, similar to what we've seen with Attack on Titan. I think that this one is kind of flying under everyone's radar, and it would be huge licensing deals, considering how well Attack on Titan did, and it's been a while now since we've seen anything else. I'm sure Dead by Daylight are thinking either we should make more Attack on Titan things or go to a different anime and bring all that stuff into the game. Imagine if we got like a Dragon Ball Z chapter in Dead by Daylight. It would be something. And I mean, it's not too far-fetched considering these things are already in other video games, so you never really know. I'm sure people that really love anime would absolutely flip if something like that came into the game, especially if it's more of the horror type of animes. It would be really, really cool. I would personally like to see something like that if it's done correctly, and I think a lot of people might overlook stuff like that, but it's pretty easy, or at least in my eyes, to get someone like Tokyo Ghoul or Parasite or anything like that to come into the game. Obviously, licensing isn't that easy as Black and White, but just show them your track record with a different anime, and then it should just be like, yeah, let's do it. Let's get on with it. So that's something that I think could happen and has been flying under everybody's radar. And the final thing that I think could potentially happen, which again is one of those things that I don't think is super duper popular, but I would personally love, is The Evil Within. I've spoken about this until I've been blue. This is kind of like one of the chapters I personally really want to come into the game, and we've made tons of videos talking about it. Now, I'm not too sure how that would work out, considering that Bethesda, the publisher of The Evil Within, they basically kind of sued Warner Bros. And Behavior Interactive over their Westworld game, and I think that has been resolved, so I don't know how well that would go with all the lawsuits and the copyright issues and things like that. I think Behavior in the past also worked on Fallout Shelter back in the days, because I know when I visited the offices, there was a couple of Bethesda things here and there, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So I'm not too sure what that relationship is now, but at the end of the day, like I always say in all of these videos, money talks. Now, as I mentioned, The Evil Within has a nice place in my heart, and I really want it to come, so that's why I'm kind of tossing it into this list. I don't think it really has a good chance, as I think there's other games out there that really could, you know, carry up some of the hypeness, and people would prefer that over The Evil Within, such as Dead Space or any other game, BioShock, things like that, that people would really, really like to see. But hey, you never know. At the end of the day, if the next chapter is licensed, I'm sure tons of people will be excited, and it opens the door to tons and tons of new possibilities. Let me know what you guys would like to see in the comments down below. I hope you guys did enjoy. As I said, these are the legitimate possibilities in my mind. These are the possibilities that I think could happen according to everything that I already believe. But hey, that's just my theory, and shout out to game theory, I guess. I personally think, as I said, the next chapter will be licensed, and I don't think it will be a major license, as the next chapter would be an anniversary, and if it is a major one, you'll tell them, hey, let's just push this 3 months later. So that being the case, these are the ones that I think would fit the glove well, and I think Behavior would have to contact them. And I think that these are the things that definitely could happen with the community's hypeness, and yeah, that is pretty much going to wrap it up for today's video. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, make sure you leave a like down below and subscribe for some more awesome Dead by Daylight videos. I want to let you guys know as well that this entire video, gameplay, editing, recording, everything has been done on a laptop. So shout out to Zydax. They actually sent me to use this for free. I have a Canada trip coming up on the 10th to the 24th. And during that time, I will be using this laptop, and I am blown away about how smooth this is. This isn't a paid promotion or anything. I just want to let you guys know that check out Zydax if you ever need a PC or a laptop. Every time I'm going to make one of these videos, I'm going to give them a shout out at the end of it, just in case you guys are curious. It's been amazing. I really like it. I'm not going to go and gush over it anymore, but yeah, check them out. Shout out to them. And as always, I'm the King. I tip my crown to you guys, and we'll see you in the fog.